Good morning everybody. It's Dawn here at TARN. Dogs are all curled up, fast asleep, including our little Poppy there. It's a really miserable day out there today, and yeah, not the sort of weather you want to be outside in. It's cold, wet, windy. So day before, I was in the polytunnel clearing down, or starting to clear out the polytunnel. It's on part of my vlog one, what the polytunnel was like. And I will be updating later this week what I'm doing in there. But yeah, it's time to take the tomatoes out. I'll keep my hand out the way. And yeah, so I picked about another, I think it's about another 9-10 pound of tomatoes there that are ripened, and then there's still a few pound of them unripened, which are sitting over there in a bowl to ripen up. So I thought, as it's a good mix of tomatoes, I would make an end of season tomato soup to be canned. I'm going to try and get all ours. We do eat a fair amount of soup. It's a good quick lunch for us to have. Usually I make them, and there's usually about 6 or 8 portions there, and it gets portioned up and it's put in the freezer, but it is taking up freezer space. So let me show you the state of the freezers. Right, this upright freezer here out in the hall, which is the one we use nearest the house, it is actually rammed. It's a tall upright larder freezer. All that top shelf is soups, and there's more soups in the back of that shelf down there. This is quite an old freezer, and as you can see, the seals aren't very good on it anymore. But this was one of the first electrical appliances we bought together as a couple. So we've had it a good 20 odd years. So it's not the most economical to run. I usually keep fish and everything in the bottom drawers, and there is all our veg as well in the other drawers. So, and in tubs, and you know, but there's just loads and loads of soups. We are trying to reduce our freezers down. We have this tall freezer here. We have beside it another small freezer, which is what we use to store our goat milk in. So let me go back through to the kitchen. In Martin's workshop, we have got 3 large chest freezers, and out in the barn we've got another chest freezer. So that's a lot of freezers, and that's a lot of electric. So the plan is we're going to eat what soups we've got frozen, but in future any soups I do, they're going to be canned. The whole idea is that tall larder one, that tall larder freezer there, we will get rid of. And one of the chest freezers we've got outside in the workshop is an old one. And again, the plan is to get rid of that. So we're going to get it down to the 3 new chest freezers that we've got, which are more energy efficient, and the small chest freezer, which was only bought, was it last year, year before last? So again, that one is fairly energy efficient. So that is the plan, and they will fit then into the small storage room on the side of the new kitchen. So today it is end of season tomato soup. Usually I would have done it slightly different recipe. I would have done and put it into containers and froze it. But now I am going to be getting more and more into canning to free up them spaces in the freezer, and hopefully get rid of the other 2 freezers. Now this is an end of season tomato, so there's all sorts in there. There's little tomatoes, big tomatoes, there's yellow tomatoes. There was some that were a bit soft, but there's all sorts. So in the pan is the tomatoes all chopped up and some onion. Now that has got to cook away for about, and there's half a cup of water in there. That's got to cook away for about half an hour to an hour till it's all softened up and mushed up and everything, and then we can go on to the next stage. So I'll carry on cooking them up and I will come back when we're ready to do the next stage. Right, I'm back now. The tomatoes have all softened up and ready for the next stage. I've even put my apron on, so because this is when I'm likely to get in a mess, because it's got to be blended up. This apron my sister made me several years ago, and it's the only apron I possess, and I was actually just thinking, whenever this is in the wash, I haven't got one to wear, so I could really do with another few aprons. And I quite fancy them ones that come on, well, they go over your head, so you haven't got no straps to tie or nothing, and they cross over at the back. They're a Japanese style. So while this was cooking down, I was actually looking up some patterns to make one of those, and I found a pattern, so I'm going to give that one a go. The other thing I've been thinking about is my kitchen tools, like canning tools, which live in a box here, which is becoming a bit battered, measuring spoons, they all end up all over the kitchen, and they never seem to get put back where they live, which is basically, I've got 2 drawers over there, everything gets shoved in there, and it makes it quite difficult to find things. So I'm going to dig out a few old jam jars and decorate them up and use them to keep my bits in. Anyway, back to the task in hand. In fact, I might even make a start on the jars this afternoon. Tomatoes are now cooked down, well, not cooked down, softened, and the onions are all softened. So now I'm going to use, let me get a plate out. My hand blender to blend them down. Then I'm going to put them through the food mill. So, enough of that one. Right, so that's them now blended down. I'm putting them through the food mill to take out any, let me just move everything back a bit. To remove the seeds and any bits of skin. And you can just put it through a sieve, but I wrestle away here assembling the mill. Yeah, as I was saying, you can just push it through a sieve, but I actually prefer, come on, get in the right place, so, to use the mill. There we go. Right, all I need to do, get a ladle. Start ladling that through. It won't take long to do because it has been pre-blended, but yeah. push it all through. So I will put a link for this recipe. It's from DIYnatural.com, but I will put a link down below. Give them credit for the recipe. And if you enjoy these videos, it'd be nice if you could give me a thumbs up on the video to say that you like it, or if you don't, you can always do a thumbs down, but I would prefer a thumbs up. And please feel free to leave comments. It's lovely to see people's comments on videos and like on the blog as well, because otherwise you do feel like you're just talking to yourself and nobody's paying much attention to you, which can be, you sort of think, is it worth doing? And yeah, and of course if you hit subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything. All it means is you're subscribing to notifications of any new videos I put up. Subscriber numbers are climbing, and of course we hope over time, because we've got lots more videos in the pipeline, to this mill doesn't really sit on this bowl very well. It's a bit on the big side, the bowl is. Yeah, we want to hit that 1,000 subscribers number, because the whole idea is that at some point we can start earning from our channel, and it will help to keep us going on the small holding. So, like I say, we have got lots more videos planned on up and coming, and that there's going to be a lot more on the food preserving side. Last year was a really bad year for us. We had a lot besides COVID, but we had which didn't really affect us, but we had a lot going on family wise, etc. So I did sort of withdraw a bit from social media and so forth, but this year getting back into the swing of things and building things up again. So yeah, there's big plans actually coming for next year, which we're not sharing just yet, but we've got big plans of what's happening on the small holding, which will be bringing us into our 8th year here. 8 years, where has the time gone? Has just flown by, and we've learnt a lot over them 8 years, an awful lot. I'd never have thought 8 years ago, well 7 years ago, you know, when we started seriously looking to buy somewhere in Wales, that you know, 7 years on, and or 8 years on, you know, this is what we're actually doing. It had always been just a dream, and you never think your dreams are going to come true, but this one did. Let's do it backwards a bit to clear it a bit. There we go. And it's been one hell of a journey. There's been a lot of lessons learned. We've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and neither of us come from a farming background, so you know, we didn't have any friends or family who were in a farming background that we could call upon for advice or help. We just had to stumble along, and well, no, not stumble along. I don't know if you know the story of before we moved here. Like I said, it had always been a dream to have a small holding and to live a more self-reliant lifestyle. and it's what we've sort of worked towards. I mean, we've been together 30 odd years now. We've been married for 30. And it's what we'd always worked towards. So we, many years before we moved here, I was into growing veg, jamming, making jams, making breads, cakes, cooking from scratch, doing all that. And then we got bees and we had chickens, and we learnt a lot of the skills, I practiced a lot of the skills before we actually moved here. So I practiced things like butter making and dabbled in a bit of cheese making and doing sausages and making bacon. But of course we weren't producing the produce to do all that. So we just buy it in and have a play around. And doing that, it actually is good because we didn't come here completely blind, not knowing anything. And it gave us the opportunity to try out what we liked, what we didn't like, what we'd do again. There we go, that's that all milled. So, right, shut that over there out of the way. Let me just give the saucepan a quick swim out because I want to use the same saucepan, but so that is that. Puree down. Right, so there we go, that's that. Pureed down. So the recipe says it makes about 4 pints, but it really depends on the type of tomatoes you're using. So next up we want so we add everything else apart from the citric acid. So let's go back up to the ingredient list. Right, tomato paste. 1, 2, 3. 3 tablespoons of that. 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. 1 tablespoon of oregano. 2 teaspoons of dried basil. This is where drying your own herbs comes into its own. So I was actually quite shocked when I saw the price of herbs and everything out in the shops. 2 bay leaves, which I've just picked from the garden. 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. One and a half teaspoons of salt. That's 1. 1 teaspoon of celery seed, and 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. I do like this measuring spoon because you can alter it. I bought it again many years ago. Everything I seem to have is ancient, like me. And it's a Pampered Chef one. I don't know whether they still do them or not, but, or if there's an equivalent out there, but you can never have too many measuring spoons, I find. Right, so we give that a stir up. Then that's going to go back on the stove, brought up to a simmer, and we're going to cook it until we've reduced down to a thickness that that we like. So, and she says here hers took about an hour. So while that's simmering, I shall get my jars washed up and I'll prepare the canner, and then we can move on to the next stage of canning it. So I'll be back with the next bit in a little while. Right, the soup has reduced down to a nice thickness, so I'm now going to get it into the jars. The jars have been in the oven, and so they're nicely sterilised. My lids are here in hot water, and the rings are here. So let's get these jars filled. These are 1 pint jars that I'm using. And we're going to go to leaving a 1-inch headspace. And the recipe said it does 4 pints, but I did, pop an extra couple of jars in just in case, because it really does depend on the type of tomatoes you're using. I've already taken the bay leaves out, so they're gone. And of course it's hot liquid, so it goes into hot jars. The canner is sitting over the back there with the water warming up. Ready. And I think, yeah, it is going to be 4 pints. Right, got my little bowl of vinegar, as we do need to wipe round the rims. Leave them 2 jars. Oh, they're hot. Right. The rims to make sure they're completely clean. Tight. go, so that's the 4 pints done. I'm going to pop them in there. If you put them straight into cold water, you end up with your jars cracking, so you really want to hot liquid into hot jars into hot canner. And then the little bit of vinegar I've got left, add that to the water. You don't have to, but it helps to stop the jars going cloudy. Right, so let me show you the jars in there, because this is water bathing, so it's not being done under pressure. There we go, jars are in there, all covered. And once they come up to the boil, then we boil them for 40 minutes. Lift them out, leave them to cool. Perhaps just leave them overnight. You don't want to disturb them once they're done. And then once they're completely cold, they can be put away. So I'll show you them once they're done. Right, the timer has gone off, so that's 40 minutes in a hot water bath. I've left it sitting there for about 5 minutes or so, just for it to settle a bit before I lift the jars out. I forgot to say earlier, I did put 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid into each of the jars before adding the soup. So let's lift the jars out. See, there we go. So that's the 4 pints of tomato soup done. Take a bit of water off that. When you lift them out of a canner or a hot water bath, you should sit them onto a tea towel or something on the side, so you're not putting them directly onto a cold surface. They are still bubbling away, and you should always use a proper lifter as well for them. But they're still bubbling away in there. So they're now going to be left to sit. And a vacuum will form, pulling the lids down inside. And the tomato soup, hot bathed, is, they say, shelf stable for a year. So once it's all done, I will write on the lids exactly what it is and the date that it was done, tomorrow's date, because it will be, that's when the rings will come off. Once they're cooled, then the rings will come off, and there'll be a vacuum seal holding that inner lid in. If you leave the rings on, it's very difficult to tell when a lid has blown. If the rings are off and you've got them in storage, and a lid has blown, it will be loose. So it's always a good idea to remove the rings. The rings aren't necessary once the process is finished. So that's the tomato soup done. So they'll go away on the shelf. We're not eating any of the canned soup until we've finished eating in the freezer what soups are there. And any future soups I do will be done so they can all be canned and bottled and put away like that. So there'll be no more popping them in the freezer. And each one of these is about a portion, so it's enough there for, you know, four lunches. And when this one is reheated, you can actually add some milk to it as well. So, and you could add some chopped crispy bacon as well or something to it. So you could actually eke it out to each jar being 2 portions, depending how much you want for yourself, of course. So yeah, so it's a very, very simple one to do. A great way of using up the end of the year tomatoes when you've got all them bits and pieces ready or coming ready. Yeah, very quick, very easy. So don't forget, please give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe so you get notifications of any future videos we do. And please feel free to share any of the videos with any of your friends, and if they like it, of course, ask them to do the same. Hit and subscribe. We really want to get up to those 1,000 subscriber numbers. So thank you very much for watching. Take care, everybody, and happy canning.